Hey, you guys, welcome back. Welcome back to day 4 of Leader Live every day in the month of August. So, let me reintroduce myself. I am Lagisha Moore of Moore Consulting. We're an SPED and RTI educational consulting firm. Our goal is to help you close the achievement gap for your students with disabilities and your most at risk students in your building. So, with that being said, I want to talk to you, new teacher, about going into the new school year. I talked about on the first day knowing your data. You must know your data. Look at your students' IEPs. Look at previous testing results if you are at the upper elementary level and above, 3 through 8. You want to look at data. You want to look at test results. You want to look at IEPs, more specifically the management needs, the plot, present levels of performance. You want to look at testing accommodations, services, those things to make sure you have a good picture, at least on paper, of what your students who will be before you, what they look like, at least on paper. Then you want to take the time. I talked about knowing yourself. So these are the nodes. You must know yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Take the time to just jot down what you know is a strength for you and what you know is a potential weakness. Some things you need to work on, or at least find ways to accommodate for those weaknesses, and definitely build on your strengths so that you can go into the school year knowing what will work well for you because you feel very confident in those areas, and what are the things you will need that will help to support you in areas where you don't feel as confident. Then the next thing we talked about was knowing your students, interest inventories, those icebreakers, those getting to know yous that you will plan accordingly to get to know who your students are, because you've seen who they are on paper, but now you actually have them before you, and you want to take the time to get to know them, one-on-ones, interest inventories, those icebreakers, those getting to know yous. And don't listen to or get feedback from previous teachers from the year before, because you want to come in with just kind of blank slate and allow your first impressions of the student to be your own without getting the input of other teachers. So today, day 4, we want to talk about knowing your content. You have to know your content as a new teacher. Absolutely. I'm excited for you. You're excited. You just graduated. This is your first teaching job, your first position. You have to know the content. So you have to take the time to look at the curricula. As an elementary school teacher, you'll be teaching, math, ELA. You'll be teaching maybe all of the subjects, science, social studies, or you may be just teaching maybe ELA and social studies, and someone else teaches math and science. Whatever it is, you're going to have to now take the time to make sure you have at least read through the first unit of your curricula. Be familiar with that. Understand kind of what is to come. You can't plan what you don't know. You cannot wing it. You cannot wing it. The next thing you want to do is sit down and kind of jot down and potentially plan out that first unit, that first month or two, whatever, however long the unit is for. It might be 4 weeks, it might be 6 weeks. It all depends. But once you read it and dive into it, you'll know what to expect. And then you maybe potentially start planning out a pacing calendar. So you'll kind of pace yourself. Like you'll get through maybe this much of the curriculum week 1, this much of the curriculum week 2, this much of the curriculum week 3. And just this is real, potentially just you what you would plan to do, but clearly things can change and you're not absolutely sure how those things will work out, but you'll want to have at least some idea. It may take you approximately this long or that long to get through. So count for holidays and half days and all of those things to just have an idea of what is to come. Because when you take the what you know about the data, what you know about yourself, what you know about the students, and what you know about the content, then you can take all of those pieces and then really sit down to think about how are you going to move these kids forward. That is what your principal is going to want to know. How are you going to move your students forward? If you are working in an urban school, a Title I school, you are going to have some segment of your population that is not I want to dare say all schools, Title One or not. Well, let me not say that. Most schools where there is some part of the student population that is not meeting benchmarks, right? They are not on grade level. So we want to make sure that we are doing whatever we can to close that achievement gap. Now, typically that will be your students with disabilities and your, of course, your at-risk students that, and we'll talk more about that in another live. So you'll take all that information because there's a lot of data. To close the achievement gap, you have to know data. Your decisions will be data driven, data based decisions. Everything you do must be based on some level of data about your students, somewhat about you, just data in general about what it takes to move students forward. So that's what I really wanted to talk about today. I didn't want to take too much time to talk about it, but that was important for you to know. You have to know your content. You have to know the curricula, spend the time, do not try to wing it. Do not skim over it. You want to really dig into it because you have to be able to show that you know it. Because when people come in and they're coming kind of doing those, not really observations, but just little walkthroughs, you want to show that you're competent. You know your content. You know your students. So that at any given moment, anyone would ask you anything about your students, you could be able to give them an informed response, not something off the top of your head, not something you just trying to make up, in the spur of the moment. You really can give them answers based on true hard facts and data. Does that make sense? I hope so. So I hope this helps because my goal is really to help you as a new teacher fast track, accelerate your ability to close that achievement gap for your students with disabilities and your most at-risk students because they will be before you. As we come out of this pandemic, many kids are going back into the classroom. They are taught. Some kids haven't been in school, actual classroom for maybe a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years since maybe the March of last year. So there is going to be some wide gaps for many of your students, and you only have your 10 months. You're not a miracle worker, but if you have the right tools, the right strategies, the right mindset, you can and you will make a dent in really closing that achievement gap for your most vulnerable and at-risk students. Does that make sense? I hope so. Again, my name is Lakeisha Moore, Moore Consultant. Thank you so much for watching the replay, sharing the replay, liking the replay, and subscribing to the channel. I look forward to day 5 of LEADER and have a wonderful, wonderful evening.